Well, good evening and welcome to the Planning Subcommittee meeting of Hertford Town Council on Monday the 6th of April. I'll start with item 1 on the agenda, if I can find it, bear with. Item 1 is to establish that the meeting is being recorded, and I believe it's live on YouTube. Is that correct, Nick?
That is correct, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 2, any apologies for absence, Nick?
No apologies.
Okay, so we move on to item 3. Are there any declarations of interest from members regarding the applications this evening?
No.
I'm getting a lot of shaking heads, so I can move on. And we move on to item 4, which is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 15th of March. Everyone had an opportunity to review those. Would anyone like to propose those as an accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Toega. And I guess just for good, what's the word? Good order to vote through. So all those in favour? Yeah, I see. Yep, that's, I believe, unanimous, Nick. We can move on to item 5, and that is to examine paper A. Nick, are there any items on paper A that need our attention?
Chairman, I've had no updates.
Okay, well,
on any of the items on paper A.
Well, Chairman, I think I should keep quiet about the Maidenhead Street thing, but it's been on there a long time. But I think the test about those internally illuminated signs is still a few weeks ahead, isn't it, really, when the business is open and get underway?
Next month, I believe, if the road map or whatever they call it.
Yeah. So if we could leave those on, but one that is giving increasing concern, and it's in Rob's ward and near where I live, is the one to do with the skips that we started. That's at the corner of Wareham's Lane and Hartingford Road. We started very early expressing a concern, and now a lot of people are mentioning this site. And because the number of skips has increased and they're very, very visible in a fairly prominent position. So I just wondered if we really ought to get some news back, didn't we, from the district council?
Nick, I wonder whether we could seek an update on that. You'll recall, I don't know that we put a date on it, but you'll recall that you made inquiries and you said East Herts Council were aware and were investigating this. That was some time ago now, so I wonder whether we could get an update.
Certainly, Chairman.
For the next meeting. Yeah. Okay. Any other items on paper A? No. Well, we can move on then to item 6. Any questions and/or statements from members of the public, Nick?
Chairman, none received.
Thank you very much. So we move straight on to item 7, which is planning applications, and paper B. We're looking at the first item, which is 138 4th Street.
It's my awards. Probably I can say something. I think it's lovely. I am 100% in favour of it. Yes. Well, no. Yes. Very nice building being proposed. Better than the existing shed, and amazed that they didn't manage to buy the kebab shop as well. But I think not to being funny, I actually think this does improve the 4th Street sort of streetscape. There are concerns about cramming a lot of flats into a small space. I understand that, but this is the centre of the town.
Yeah,
and I think all in all, I think this is okay.
Any other observations?
I would agree. I'm happy, Chairman. One thing I failed to do, and I'm sorry, confession time, I wanted to see if there was any alteration to the pavement. Whether the building line has changed. It's a funny corner there.
It is. You're right.
It is. This 3D image does not really is not a true representation of how it looks at all. My only concern, if we could go back to that graphic,
Well, that's the back, Chairman. I was thinking of the 4th
Yeah.
Street side.
Okay, on 4th Street, there is another view. It is very prominent from Gascoigne Way.
Yeah.
But it is an improvement on the sheds. I can't disagree with you, Councillor Pinkham. That's the view.
It is prominent, but the powers that have been over the years have done such horrible things to Gascoigne Way that this is actually better than most of them. So if you compare that to the car park, for instance.
And 9 parking spaces for 7 flats. Do we feel
it's not enough, but it's right in the centre of town, and you're going to have to come to terms with that if you live there, I think.
Yeah. Right.
My only observation was I wondered whether there might be a few more architectural features. I don't know whether we'd go back to that side-on image, and I know that's the one from Gascoigne Way, but it just seems quite a large sort of monolithic building, and I know they put some window blanks in. Just wondered whether they could do something just to break it up a little bit architecturally, but it's only an observation. I don't know whether I'm being too picky here.
It's brick, which is nice. I like brick.
Yes,
but that's just me. I mean, and it has got those lines, those what do you call them? Coping things. There's copings at the top, isn't it? But and it's got the windows are quite. I think they're quite nice.
I've got to say, I like it.
What comment do we want to make then going forward to East Herts District Council? Do we just say no objection, or do we want to be a bit more positive than that?
A vast improvement to the town centre, and excellent.
This enhances a tired and because the old buildings were very much
Tired.
bric-a-brac, really, wasn't they? They were really odds and sods sort of.
Yeah, well, it's a vast improvement on what was.
So do we want to say that it enhances
No, I think that's going too far, Chairman. It'll be controversial. I agree. I like the sort of late 18th century front almost, but I think a lot of people will find it difficult, and we don't normally jump in and praise things, do we? We're normally sort of a critical friend, but keep quiet on the positives.
Neat and tidy then.
Yeah, okay. Should we just say no objection?
Yes.
And we'll move on. Okay. 5 Hollydale is the next item, and it's a variation of condition 2.
But I couldn't again see anything that I really wanted to object to here. It's a private house, pretty tucked away, and I, like the neighbours, think that it improves it.
I'm of that view as well. So is that a no objection?
Yeah.
Everyone happy with that? We'll move on then to 156 Avenue. Described as erection of canopy. I'm not sure I necessarily call it canopy. And the incorporation of a green roof. I don't know whether anyone noticed that. On the flat roof is going to be a green roof. But I had no objection. Any observations? So again, that's no objection, Nick, for 156 Avenue. Is it easier if I make reference to the planning authority number, or are you all right with addresses, Nick?
Chairman, I'm fine with addresses. I've got both of my notes here, so it's not a problem.
Thank you. So we'll move on then to 35C Bull Plain.
I didn't have any worries about this, but I don't know whether anyone is particularly worried about it.
It's a listed building, obviously.
Yeah.
It's all internal.
Yeah.
It's all internal. It makes it more usable.
From an external perspective, it's a very strange little building. For those of you who sort of know it, it almost looks like an overgrown wooden shack.
Yeah, I think I would die for the building. because it's been my whole life in Hartford, that building, and I keep I see it almost every day, and I like it.
If it was on the beach, I'd be.
Well, it almost is. Depends how you look at the river,
Very true.
Bob. But I won't die for the interior.
Is it no comment and no objection?
Not for me.
Well, yeah, no objection.
Yeah.
All right, so we move on then to 34 Cherry Tree Green. So this came before us in December 20 when we had no objection, but it was refused by East Herts District Council on the basis that the first scheme was overbearing and the scale was out of proportion with the building. It is slightly smaller now, but it's of a similar scheme, but somewhat smaller. In fact, the original one, the first scheme that we saw, extended out almost to their boundary on the west side there. So where the existing garage is being demolished, the original application was for an extension that went all the way out almost to their boundary, about covering the garage basically. And now they've made it smaller. The front porch extension is the same. We had no objection on the first occasion. Personally, I have no objection.
No.
No. So again, it's a no objection for Cherry Tree Green, Nick. And we move on to 49 Fulbridge Rise, which is erection of a replacement outbuilding. And in my view, it's an improvement. I don't know. Does anyone have any comment? I can't see it as being a separate dwelling, which might be the only concern we might have.
No.
So again, is that a no objection?
No objection.
No objection.
All right. Nick, we're moving on to 59 Wellington Street.
Chairman.
And this is a replacement for existing external access stair and canopy with a new stairs and canopy straight porch. So those of you who know sort of Wellington Street, there's a sort of row of terraces, but they're way up in the sky, and there's these quite steep steps up to the properties, or steep driveway. And indeed 59 is exactly like that. As you can see, it's an end terrace. It's quite a modern, I don't know whether there's an elevation, modern, quite a modern design. So again, these images don't really do it justice, but
It seems to be an improvement, doesn't it? It tidies up the front.
it is quite tidy. It's quite modern in its look, but then these properties are quite new, aren't they?
Yeah. Those two are, yes.
Yeah. I personally don't have an issue.
No objection for me.
Okay. So I believe it's a no objection then, Nick. We haven't managed to find the, there's another view front on. I haven't quite found yet.
No. Oops.
That shows the plan. And actually, I think it might even improve. Well, what they've managed to do is get a gate in on the sort of ground level for the access to their garden. So, but anyway, I think we have no objection. Nick.
Okay.
And we move on to 45 The Avenue. And this is a single-story side extension with a roof canopy and a replacement front elevation. So, any observations regarding this? Obviously, they're extending out to their boundary. Looks like there may have been, I don't know, there's been an extension on the other side of the semi because it matches 41 and 43. Any observations regarding this?
The staggering saves it, doesn't it, Chairman? I think the fact that it's on that bend.
Just
Yeah.
have a look at the cladding. Just sure you're happy with that as against the one next door. I know it's in stark contrast. Is it not?
It is. So we need to, it's the front elevation we need to see, I suppose, which,
Yeah.
where that cladding is.
I mean, it doesn't. It seems inappropriate to me that the cladding should be different to the house next door.
What material is it? There are some wood clad buildings on the avenue.
Oh yes, no problem with cladding because a lot of them are cladded, but it should be the same, I think. But other people may disagree. I don't know.
I agree with that.
It's not exactly ugly, but it doesn't mean, oh, I don't know, sometimes same is quite,
I think that will stand out like a sore thumb if you.
But then the existing finishes are different, are they not?
Are they? I don't know.
I think so.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's better what they're doing, isn't it? I mean, in a sense, it's now completely clad rather than half clad with horrible stone rubbish. But on the other hand, why on earth can't they have the same sort of cladding as the one next door? Or is that not available anymore?
Yeah,
I've got to say that surely people still have the right to make a decision if it is not extensively ugly or totally out of place. I mean, maybe it's a better form of cladding. It might be a better form of material. We don't know, but I don't see why it should be objected to because it's slightly different.
I don't have an issue with the difference, I have to say.
Right.
Just because of the nature of all the houses along there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different finishes.
You don't think it makes it look like there's been a small war in the area?
It didn't come to mind.
Okay.
Anyone else in support of those views, or?
I'm happy with what I see here, Chairman, but I will later on in the agenda on paper C just mention another feature of the properties that I'm less happy about, but this one I can live with.
Okay, I think overall, I think it's then a no objection, Councillor Pinkham.
Yeah.
You're not going to die in a ditch over it, is there?
No ditches available around here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll find that there's many semis that have two different finishes all the way along there. So it's a no objection on 45 the Avenue. And we move on to 86 Horns Mill Road.
Oh.
Now Ginger's Restaurant, or was. I don't know whether it still is Ginger's.
I feel like a ditch is coming around for this one. This is an old place for. I used to live in Calper Crescent. This was my local. I love it much, and I think that, contrary to what's said by the applicants and their representatives, I think most of the places around here are brick, and I don't think a rendered building is right here. It's right on the entrance to town. And I think it will substantially spoil the look of it. But other people may take a different view.
I think when you read the design access statement, the reference is made to the brickwork being in poor state of repair.
Yeah.
And I think this is a cost-effective way of dealing with brickwork that's in a poor state of repair. It's basically by rendering it, you can sort of seal it and weatherproof it all in one go.
As you can by pointing.
Well, whereas repointing the brickwork is quite an expensive enterprise.
Why? But it is a brick building, and it's always been a brick building. And to me,
it is a listed building. Councillor Ruffles.
Well, I think I'm not. Did Councillor Triga have something to say? I'll speak. I just think it relates quite with the next door neighbour, the next building, the old workhouse, which again is brick. The workhouse does have a painted flank wall at one end. I've forgotten which end now. I think it may be the end near the Hartshorns pub here, but essentially it's an old brick building, and I wouldn't want to see it faced. Sympathy with the business, because obviously it must be struggling, but I think that's the debt you've got to pay into society.
I don't know who actually owns the building, whether it's McMullins, in which case it isn't about cost. But anyway, the application isn't made by McMullins, I don't think. I think though, sorry, Councillor Troega.
Just to say, I agree with what's been said, and once you render it, it will need repainting periodically, and if that doesn't happen, then it will look, you know, it will look very bad at the entrance to the town, really. I mean, the brickwork, I've looked at it, it's not perfect, but on the other hand, it's been there for 100 years, and the rendering would deteriorate in 5.
Yeah. So I think you've still got your hand up, Councillor Troega. I believe you're. Thank you very much. So, Nick, the committee object to this proposed external rendering. This is a fine brick-built listed building, which is in keeping with the adjacent old workhouse building next door, which is also brick-built. At the and is a prominent building at the entrance to Hertford Town. And the brick finish should be retained. So we then move on to another listed building, 3 Parliament Square. Now, the last time we looked at this, Councillor Ruffles made a comment that it was originally a car showroom. And I happened to see an old photograph of that very building, and it was actually the Ware garage. Now, I don't know why it was Ware, but that's what it was. It had a big sign across it saying Ware garage. So it was indeed a garage at some point. What they're now asking to do is to increase the height of a chimney, I think it is. It's an external flue, isn't it? And,
Yeah.
and it's going to be positioned where that pipe is, and it's going to protrude, they say, 350 millimeters above the roof level. But it's a total of 2,200 millimeters so it's just over 2 meters tall in total. It's now a little bit taller than it was. We had no objection on the first occasion. I can't see any issue with it. So there's no objection.
I'm happy.
Yeah, so there's no objection from the committee.
There
Nick.
are no objections.
And we move on to 247 Hartingford Bury Road, where they want to use anthracite grey timber effect hardy plank cladding.
My son-in-law is using this on his garden office, so I'm very familiar with the stuff, and it is nothing like it's got its own. It's not bad stuff, but it's nothing like the wood cladding that was originally approved, and it's completely out of keeping, in my opinion. And the neighbours seem to think that too. So I think we should oppose that.
Well, I did notice that there are 2 different specifications of this cladding. There's a smooth finish and there's a cedar wood surface.
Yeah, my son-in-law has got both of those. The smooth one at the back where you can't see it, and the other one at the front, and neither of them look anything like wood. I'm beginning it.
Okay. Are we agreed then that wood should be retained? Obviously, it'll be much harder wearing and much more.
Yes, it will be there forever.
Yeah. But presumably, it's not very environmentally friendly either.
Chairman, could we acknowledge, if we are going to make that comment, that we are recognising that it's a new building, in case they think we've just been automatically sort of wincing because it's in a row of important old buildings, but
yeah. But I think that one of the reasons that they got planning permission and everyone was reasonably happy was they were building something that fitted, and this I think would detract dramatically from that.
yeah.
So is it something along the lines then of whilst the committee recognised this is a relatively modern building set within a street of older properties, this cladding, this type of cladding does not fit the street scene. It's not in keeping with the street scene, and a wood finish should be retained. A wood clad finish should be retained. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to be saying.
So we move on to 45 Woodlands Road, where they want to build a one-bedroom dwelling on the side of an existing house. So it's an interesting building because although the address is Woodlands Road, it's sort of on the side where Brazier's Field goes down. I don't know how well people know the area. But if we look at the block plan, you can see in the bottom corner there, if we can blow that up a bit, Nick, bottom right hand corner. There we go. So it is actually sort of almost like round the corner from Woodlands Road, if you see what I mean, just because of the nature of the topography there. So it is a big plot, but is it appropriate? There was a comment from one neighbour about the extension to the rear of the property, which is what they're proposing to do, that will break the symmetry of that row of terraces. So there are no extensions beyond the rear of that row of terraces at the moment. And the rear elevation will now, so from the side here, yeah, you'll see that it's going to extend significantly out to the rear of that row. And is that an issue for us? And the loss of family homes in that area, would it not be better to you know, enlarge an existing rather than stick a one bedroom alongside? Is it appropriate area for these sort of dwellings?
I think that looks to me like overdevelopment, and I accept the argument about the loss of symmetry as well. I mean, it's nice, the idea that you can make a few bob, but I mean, I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I think we have to be quite careful about new dwellings being stuck in the gardens of places. You're losing density, you're increasing density, and that means really that everybody in the neighbourhood loses. If we continue to allow that sort of thing around the town, we end up living in a more dense settlement, and you know, our own, well, everybody's amenity is reduced, I think. So
parking is also quite congested around there.
Yeah.
So, you know, Woodlands Road.
I mean, as I say, it's not my ward, but I would personally be against it.
I see Councillor Traeger nodding.
Yeah, I wasn't at first, but I can hear the argument and support it. Yeah.
So is that the view of the committee? I also have concerns. Yeah. So Nick, the committee object to this application on the grounds of overdevelopment of a small site, the loss of green space, the breaking the building line at the rear of the row of properties, and the lack of additional parking provision in a road which is already experiences congestion with park cars. All right, we'll move on then to 3 North Road Gardens. So this application, interestingly, was granted in 2015.
Yeah.
For a period of 3 years, and it wasn't acted on. So this is really just a reapplication. There was no objection made by Hertford Town Council in 2015.
I didn't see any reason to object this time either.
No, neither do I. So it's a no objection then, Nick, to 3 North Road Gardens. Then move on to paper C. And the first item on paper C is 21 Greenways. And this is a variation in terms of wanting to change the plans. And the main changes are, surprise, surprise, fenestration. They now want bifolding doors that they didn't have before on the rear extension. And the steps down the side of the house with the railings, which seem to me to be quite sensible, actually.
Yeah.
It's certainly better than the steps without the railings.
Right. I personally had no objection. Yeah. But again, the agreement of the checking with the committee. So that's no objection then, Nick. We move on then to 76 North Road. Now, what did I write down here? Yes.
2 new Juliet balconies. Do you not think we should have a policy of only 1 Juliet balcony per application?
So I'd just like to share with the committee that there's one objection from a neighbour, Kim Lewis, who said that she'd provide details of her objections to some of our fellow councillors. I wrote to our fellow councillors asking for that information so it could be considered tonight at the committee, and I've not received any replies. So unfortunately, whatever her concerns were, we cannot consider them. It's a major extension, and it also is adding a basement. I don't know whether anyone noticed.
Oh, God.
And the other issue for me is that it does alter the spacing of those buildings along North Road. So at the moment, they're quite evenly spaced, and you see sort of through, okay, I know the railway lines at the back, but you've also got obviously the meadow, below Bengio Hill, that you see through the gap. And this is going to alter, significantly alter the spacing. I can really be seen there. They're sort of building right up to their boundary.
So what would we call that, our objection then?
Well, I think it's overdevelopment again.
Yeah.
It's certainly not subservient, is it? It's doubling the size.
Yeah, if we can enlarge that view, Nick.
And it does overshadow the neighbour as well. I mean, 2 Juliet balconies looking over you.
Yeah.
But to be honest, we've carved up the green belt at Thieves Lane with 4-bedroom houses. They should move there, to be honest.
So
overdevelopment. I think we should support you on that.
the committee, is this an objection then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the committee object to this application on the grounds of overdevelopment. Makes the 2 semi-detached properties out of balance. It alters the regular spacing of the semi-detached properties along this stretch of North Road.
Yeah.
And can you say why, Chairman? Because it builds up to the boundary.
Yeah.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Councillor Raffles. Yeah, and by building up to the boundary, there's a lot of view when walking along North Road of the even distribution of the properties, and the view beyond the Wearer line,
Yeah.
up towards Bengio Hill.
Quite right.
And the basement, well, we're going to try, aren't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's terrible for people who live next door with this sort of thing. The sheer sort of effort to create a basement, it gives you sort of 3 months of hell, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So
But anyway, I don't know that we can necessarily comment on the basement. I don't know. Is there anything we want to say?
If I was a neighbor, I'd worry about my foundations, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know that.
You can't say anything about it, sort of thing.
I'm not sure it's a planning matter.
No.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. And the addition, perhaps the addition of a basement on a semi-detached property, could lead to concerns for the integrity of the other side of that property, the other side of the building, the other side of the property.
Yeah, maybe.
We then move on to 24 Queens Road, which is enlargement of front roof window.
Yeah. This is in the conservation area, and it's a semi, I think I seem to recall, and it doesn't look very. I mean, I think it does spoil the look of the front of the semi. I mean, I don't really care what they're doing inside it. I mean, I understand why they might want the extra light, but it doesn't look very attractive, does it? I mean,
it is quite a substantial window, is it not?
it is, yeah, and very strange.
However, unfortunately, well, no, my view is that as a 3-bay roof, front roof window, it is out of keeping.
Yes,
and out of proportion with other roof lights. Opposite the house, interestingly, there is a large single roof light window, and I would have thought that would be much more in keeping.
Yeah.
On a 3-bay, than a 3-bay window.
Yeah. I mean, I think it spoils the look of the house, but it's and it is in the conservation area, and I know there's some other awful things that happened along that road, but I don't think necessarily. I think it's right for us to object to it. Yeah. It does spoil the look of it, and it spoils the symmetry of the two houses, which at the moment is pretty much perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so the committee object to the scale of the roof window being proposed, and as a 3-bay window, it's out of proportion and has an impact on the adjoining semi-detached, or a loss of symmetry results. And as a result, there is a loss of symmetry. So we're not opposing a larger window as such, are we?
Well, I think we don't. I don't think we make any suggestions to them. We just say that we don't like look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would oppose anything actually that's spoiled the symmetry of it, but it's happened in other places in the road. Yeah. But this is the conservation area, and what are we trying to conserve?
In the conservation area, yes. Thank you. Let's just add that, Nick, in the conservation area, and we'll leave it at that. So then we look at 7 Hillside Terrace, or land adjacent to.
However hard I tried with this one, Chair, I could not get this to open. So I've not seen it. I don't know.
It's a very strange building, but it is. It was granted in 2012.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Okay. And again, nothing was done with it.
It's a very strange site, very difficult to develop. But I thought last time he got there, as it were, the applicant. It's the same applicant now. and managed to get in something which is particularly eco-friendly. It's got those credentials.
It has. Must have been quite ahead of its time in 2012.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of sort of timber finishes, and it's a multi-level sort of, as you can see, multi-roof line. It's interesting design with weathered green oak horizontal cladding, and a sedum planted roof is this sort of grass roof on it.
Yeah.
I have no objection to it. It's quite an alternative design for hillside terrace, but it's just upland at the moment, so I really don't see it as an issue.
Yeah, agree.
No objection.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Deserving of a blue plaque.
Well, we'll see. That's not within our gift, Councillor Pinkham. So we move on to Old Forge House, which is Hartingford Berry Road. And this is an interesting site, actually. There's a number of buildings on it, and I was scratching my head to think which one are they actually altering. But the Old Forge House, is it both 255 and 257?
Yes, it has had the same occupancy.
Yeah.
The two of them.
Okay. Obviously, it's listed. It's a listed building. They want to remove the conservatory and put a more substantial extension on the back. I personally didn't have any issues.
I don't know what other people think, whether you think that the conservatory itself is intrinsically valuable. I don't know. It's quite a nice conservatory, isn't it? I mean, and you can, I guess, see it.
It's tucked away.
Yeah. Well, I didn't feel very strongly about this. I must say. I wondered if anyone else would. But
Councillor Ruffles, do you have any observations?
It's not a nice Victorian conservatory, is it? It's pretty modern, but
no,
it didn't offend me, I have to say, Chairman.
No comment or no objection?
No comment, I think.
Yeah. So that's a no comment to both the listed building consent and then the full planning application. And then we move on to 38 Calper Crescent. So it's currently a tiled front elevation, clay tiles, Calper Crescent, and they're wanting to replace the existing tiles with weatherboard cladding. UPC. I don't use the V anymore. It's plastic cladding.
Well, am I allowed to say it's just disgusting, really? I mean, it's a semi again, isn't it? Anything horrible next door with that?
Well, again, there's a variety of finishes on Calper Crescent.
Yeah, but not plastic, surely.
This was the one, Chairman, I was hoping to comment on. It's because I've had a letter from a member of the Molewood Association, what's it called? Residents Association, committee member, but in his own right, as it were, objecting not to this application, but to the general loss of hanging tiles where they're being taken away bit by bit, sometimes without the need for planning permission. I referred his letter to his committee chairman, as it were, so that the association itself could consider whether it was something as an association they wanted to react to. But it wasn't directed precisely at this application, although I've now told him that there is an application in. But that was the point. I mean, it's not within a conservation area, but those hanging clay tiles are characteristic of quite a lot of the build on the estate, and their loss, I think, is to be regretted. And then when we look at a semi-detached pair, probably even more so when they, you know, when they fitted nicely with each other and now don't, or wouldn't if we permitted change.
Yeah, I mean, I must say I don't like those tiles. I mean, I would like all the houses to not have them, but but I don't like the idea of just one being replaced with plastic cladding. I think it's an appalling idea. And yes, it's not the conservation area, and if it's just aesthetics we're talking about, but it is completely out of keeping.
Yeah, I think, Chairman, if I can, it's the word character of the estate. It's the character which was what was being defended.
Yeah, I'd accept that. I'd support that.
Is it as strong as an objection or is it a concern? Looking for some consensus here.
I'd propose an objection, Chairman, to test it at East Hearts.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So, Nick, the committee object to the loss of the hanging tile finishes, which is common and as
Common characteristic.
Yeah, common characteristic or contributes to the character of Calper Crescent, and especially as the other half of this semi-detached property will retain a tiled finish, and this change in finish will look incongruous. How about that? Furthermore, the colour of the proposed finish is not referred to. Then we move on to the view, Ware Park, which is this is the property is, goodness knows how they got built, along the canal, basically on the far side of the canal on the towpath, and they want to put electric gates and a couple of brick pillars in. Any observations? Quite smart gates. Councillor Toega.
I've been in a city, not in this country, where because of robberies, everybody puts up gates, and the whole city looks horrendous. It's like looks like a jail. I just object to gates in principle, really. That's what I would say.
I mean, there's currently a timber frame. There's currently a timber sort of post and rail fence, as they call it.
Was there a reason given for the gates? I can't recall.
They're just putting a new entrance, a new access in. If you have a look at the site plan, I don't know how they currently access the garage. It's not that clear.
I think it's open.
You can walk along that path in front of the houses, so you will see it. It does look a bit odd to me, having a timber posts and then brick gate posts. I mean, brick gate posts belong in brick walls rather than timber. I think.
Yeah. But I think maybe to support the weight of these electric gates or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, you couldn't have them without. I agree. Pretty daft, really.
Is it an objection or a concern? It's in the green belt.
Then it doesn't do much for the openness, does it?
No.
No, indeed.
I hope we could chip in Councillor Tariga's general objection as a passing comment about that sort of secure thing, the ghetto type mentality that develops. I mean,
the 5-part gate is appropriate, isn't it?
Should that be just an observation rather than objection?
Yeah. And I wonder whether we could also add a daft request that there is some kind of post box, preferably wooden, available when the gates are not available to a pedestrian.
For the postman, you mean?
For the postman and for anybody else who's delivering propaganda.
Ah, indeed.
You might have their vote already.
The committee concerned at the loss of openness in the green belt, the introduction of brick-built piers into
Canal side.
pardon?
A canal side, you know, I mean, it's the whole point about canal side houses is that they look up, is they relate to the canal. You don't stick up a whole load of boundaries between your house and the canal. Your house is only there because of the canal. That's what that group of buildings.
Well, it's next door to the mill house, in fact.
Yes, exactly. And so the mill house is there because.
Yes, indeed.
So it you know, the notion of cutting those houses off from the canal is inherently wrong, but you know.
Yeah. So we regret the loss. The introduction of brick-built piers to support these gates is out of keeping with the openness or the frontage of the properties along this stretch of the canal. It also encloses property in a way which is not appropriate in this green belt.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Councillor Ruffles, you
Well, I
were...
just wonder if there's any chance of wooing you and Councillor Pinkham away from the word canal, which to me conjures up a sort of
Canalised river. Canalised
waterway.
well, no,
waterway.
it's the navigation, the lee navigation,
Oh, all right.
Indeed.
which is a nicer word.
I stand corrected, but not miffed.
Yeah.
Well, I think
If we could substitute lee navigation for canal, please, Nick, and also let's not forget we would expect to see a post box provided so that parcels and so that post box to see a post box if access is restricted. Let's move on to 102 Mangrove Road. So there was an earlier application last year, in fact, which we made no comment to. Now they want to raise the internal ceiling. Now they say that this is only moderate. But what I would say regarding the externals is although it raises at the front, it raises the flat roof by 250 mil, about 10 inches. At the rear, it is 500 mils that it raises the rear of this single story rear extension is going to raise by 500 millimeters. Is that an issue for anyone?
No.
Although it's technically in the green belt, I mean there are fields behind, but I don't have an issue.
No me.
There is no comment again.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that then what am I doing here? Trying to find my next item. Bear with. I've lost my agenda. Help.
I think we're drifting onto licensing now, aren't we?
The White
Well,
Hart.
there is a license application, but we just need to do this in order, if you'll forgive.
All right.
Agenda. So we've done papers B and C on item 7. Item 8, decisions received from Hertfordshire County Council and East Herts District Council. That's paper D. Any observations regarding paper D? No, then we can move on to.
Could I
yes.
could have a different observation? It's not on paper D exactly, but I think Nick emailed all of us with the information of the new street names for Benjo Nursery, and I was quite amazed because they'd already put in a list of names, and they chose from our list, which is just nice of them.
Yes.
And they've been very, they haven't chosen the most historic ones. They've chosen the nicest sounding ones, with one exception, and that's the wonderful Dr. Wormald.
Yes, indeed. I noticed.
I couldn't believe that when I first saw it, but it's a very good one, and there's a story to tell about him. If you remember, he's the one who had these surgeries for the poor people there, and he himself was earning a good screw in London as a consultant, and yet did this thing on that site for
Now, one of the comments we made when we made our proposals was that it was important that Hertford Museum were aware of the provenance of the street names. Councillor Ruffles, do you know how we can ensure, or will Hertford Museum be aware of the provenance of these
I
names?
doubt if they will, so perhaps we need to ask Nick if he one day could write the little letter to the curator and give the background, which is in our minutes, so we don't have to say it again. Interesting, one of them is the head of Benjo School, not the most distinguished head, not the most recent, but one who's got a nice handle, and they've chosen that one. But
I thought it was quite nice that they also incorporated Nursery Road or whatever.
and,
Yes. I'm glad they got that one.
I was really chuffed.
Nod to the former nursery that was on the site. Yeah. So Nick, would you be able to? I'm afraid it's an action for you.
Certainly, yep, that will do, Chairman.
Be able to draft a letter to the curator at Hertford Museum. Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. I was going to. Well, there is no AOB, I know. I was going to because Nick, sorry.
I was just, Chairman, I was going to inform you as part of the item on correspondence from East Herts Council. I was going to cover it under that section.
We covered it off. So we're back on the agenda then, and we are indeed now looking at licensing applications. Just by way of background, I thought you might be aware or like to know that this morning at East Herts District Council, planning application for the extension of the alcohol license at Tesco's in Hertford was considered, and the chair of the licensing committee invited me to speak on behalf of the town, on behalf of the planning subcommittee. So I spoke on your behalf, and as did Nick, who summarised our comments that we've made already. What was the outcome of the application, Nick? I wasn't able to stay on the call.
Yeah, Chairman, the outcome was so the Sunday opening hours were restricted, so they weren't as long as the original one they were proposing. So the application got the overall application agreed, but so they've reduced the hours. They've got a condition on the hours for Sunday opening.
So I think we might expect to see some public nuisance now in Harton Park late at night, which was one of our concerns. I also raised the proximity of Hertford East Station, and the fact that people may well load up with alcohol and then make trouble on the trains. But they hadn't consulted the British Transport Police, just made the usual application to Stevenage, I believe it is, Stevenage Police Station for these things, and had no response from the police to the application. So it's been approved. There's also the item that's on our paper there at the bottom, paper C. Here it is, which is for the White Hart Marketplace, and it's an application to renew the existing payment license. I know there were some concerns about whether it would impact the Saturday market. I don't know whether you remember when it was first.
But I wouldn't object to this. We'd lived with it before, and I think we've got to help out the pubs at the moment.
And actually, it worked quite well. They didn't encroach onto the market stall plots or whatever, and I actually provided them amenity for our parishioners.
I certainly like eyes on the street, and I think these outdoor things are good.
Yeah, so we have no objection, I believe. I'm just checking everyone's in agreement with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Nick, we're on to item 10. Any correspondence? Well, we've dealt with the correspondence from East Herts regarding street names. Nick, is there any other correspondence?
Nick, you're mute.
Ah, that's why we've lost you, Nick.
Sorry, Chairman. No correspondence. No.
I'm working to a 7 o'clock deadline, so any items for future agenda? Anyone like to bring anything to our attention? Hint, hint. There was something you were discussing. Just
Yeah, the area beyond along the Coal Green Way, Hartonsbury, and the quarry, and the house nearest to the Coal Green Way. I don't know how to summarize that, but we need to observe, I think, first.
the erection of a 12-foot. Did you say 12-foot fence?
Something it looks very high. I don't know if it's 12 feet, but it's very high.
And I know that we did consider 2-meter fence along there. But yeah. So Nick, this item for the future agenda is to investigate.
Yeah. Well, no doubt we'll have an opportunity to have a stroll over there.
The consent.
Have a look. I certainly will. It's one of my favourite walks. So.
Yeah. Okay, so just to investigate the consent for erection of a high fence.
Yeah.
Joining Coal Green.
Sorry, Chairman. What's the location of that? You could just confirm the location.
Adjacent to the quarry, and I could, or perhaps Councillor Traeger, you could have a bit of a look on a street map or something, street maps, and
I'll just look now.
oh, I've blown my 7 o'clock finish.
Yes, St Mary's Lane, adjoining the Coal Green Way.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other items for future agenda? I think I can declare this meeting closed then, Nick, and we'll see you all for a full town council meeting in half an hour. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.